Hi, I'm Mason Cohen. I'm the animal Rover. I'm taking you to my Africa world and I'll learn all about animals of Africa. Tell us about the home that Pepper has here at the zoo.
The home here at the zoo, her luxury travel condo, is engineered just for her. It's got a soft little mulch base that she uses to dig around, because in the wild she'd be digging around. And since she's nocturnal, she has her little hidey hole box that she can go to whenever the daylight shines into the trailer, so that she can stay nice and sleepy during the day.
How long would I let Pepper live in her zoo home compared to my home in the wild?
In her zoo home, wow, hopefully 10 years. In the wild, not so long. If she felt threatened, and let's see if we can get her to do it. She has a very special stomach muscle that zips up like a purse string. So I don't know if she'll think I'm very threatening. Probably not. She'll curl into a tight ball. She would curl into a tight ball, though. She's not afraid of us.
Yes, she would.
I know, but in the wild, think about it. Predators don't grab things with their hands. They grab things with their mouth. And she only has fur on her belly, so she has to keep that little undercarriage safe. So she curls up into a tight ball, tucks her head down in, and she's completely covered in these little quills.
What does Pepper like to eat?
Pepper is an insectivore. Do you like cricket burgers?
Yes.
You like cricket burgers? Well, you and her would get along smashingly. She's an insectivore, so in the wild, she's looking to eat any arthropods. Obviously not as big as Millie, though.
What size litters can a teneric have?
Well, it ranges. When you have a lot of food, if you have a good rainy season, you'll have a larger litter. But they generally only have about 3 full babies per litter.
What does Prince Charming like to eat?
Prince Charming likes everything. Charming is an opportunistic feeder. Notice the size of his mouth. You see how big his mouth is? So he sits in a pond, just like he's doing now. And he waits for the food to almost walk up into his mouth. So everything from any insects to even small rodents. His mouth runs side to side, so he can fit a lot of food in there.
How much could he eat in one sitting?
Honestly, a big guy like this, he could probably eat maybe a cricket, a mouse, you name it. But he won't eat until he can't take any more. He'll have his fill and then wait for more food to come by.
Has an African bullfrog ever been caught eating snake babies?
African bullfrogs have been caught eating just about anything that isn't bolted down. Small snakelets would be a tasty snack for Charming, that's for sure.
How big can African bullfrogs get?
A full-grown African bullfrog, because he's kind of like a circle, he's a big man, so let's say 9-10 inches around. Charming isn't as big as you would think he might be. They get very large.
How does a bullfrog like Prince Charming differ from a regular frog?
Well, size. When you're a big man, you can eat just about anything. Normally, frogs have a much smaller mouth than Charming does, so they can't eat enormous food. So they more rely on arthropods and insects. Charming can eat just about anything.
Including elephants?
No, not elephants. It'd be hard work fitting an elephant in Charming's mouth.
How does an African bullfrog defend itself?
An African bullfrog defends itself. Let's see if we can get him to puff up. Let's say a predator picks him up. You see how he's blowing himself up? He's making himself big. To make yourself even larger, you take a deep breath in with your lungs and expand yourself as big as you can. You're trying to make everyone think you're really much larger than you really are. So not even to bother to take a chunk out of it.
If I went to Africa, where could I see a bullfrog like Prince Charming?
Prince Charming African bullfrogs are found more in the central part of Africa, although their range is quite large. So when we have a good rainy season, you'd have a lot of froglets being hatched. Although in the wintertime, all he's got to do is cover himself in spittle. when we don't have rain for bullfrogs and the little ponds dry up and up, he covers himself with a mixture. See how he's getting all big? He covers himself with a mixture of mud and mucus and covers himself completely so he can hibernate through the dry season.
What happens to an African bullfrog during the rainy or dry season in Africa?
Rainy season, he is a happy man. You've got a big pond, you've got places to go. As the rainy season stops and slows down, those ponds get smaller and smaller and smaller. So all the froglets are born generally in the middle of the rainy season so they can reach maturity. But in the wintertime with no rain, inside that little mud-coated mucus shell, he can survive without any food throughout the whole dry season. All right, let's introduce Pharaoh, our Kenyan sand boa.
She's puffing herself out, isn't she?
There we go, big man.
Small man. She doesn't look very far big. How long can they grow?
Pharaohs will call him full grown, but reptiles, arthropods, and amphibians, they grow every day they're alive. So imagine if Pharaoh's lifespan was 100 years. He would be enormous. Their lifespan isn't that long, so Pharaoh doesn't get to be that big. Pharaoh's lifespan is about 12 to 15 years.
That's a long time.
Oh, now we're giddy about the whiteboard. All right, Pharaoh.
Pharaoh is such a powerful name. Are sand boas a take charge kind of snake?
Sand boas are a hide and seek kind of snake. It gets very hot in Kenya during the day, and there's no water. So what he does is he digs below the surface of the sand, just like I have in my sandbox here. The surface of the sand might be 130 degrees, but maybe 6 inches lower, 10, 15 degrees cooler. So he sits there during the day when it's way too hot.
What does a sand boa like to eat?
Sand boa, you like mouse? Very tasty. A pocket gopher or a mouse. You'll notice Pharaoh doesn't have a very big mouth. But what he does is he waits for the food to walk up to him. So he hides underneath the sand and just puts the end of his nose out and darts that tongue out, waiting for the vibrations on the sand to be very tiny. And he just sits there and looks like a little pebble. And then when that mouse walks right over, bam, bam, and then he gets him. Now he's just a constrictor, so he would just wrap around it until it didn't move anymore and then swallow it head first. But not big food.
How big is Pharaoh's palace here at the zoo?
Pharaoh's palace, his sandbox, is much larger than this one. It's a little bit larger than this board right here, and he shares it with his roommate Cleopatra, another Kenyan sand boa.
How active is Pharaoh during the day?
Pharaoh during the day here is a little more active than he would be in Kenya. It gets very hot, and just because you're cold-blooded doesn't mean you want to be in an oven. So during the day when it's too hot, he's not going to want to move around as much. But at night when it cools down, I'm telling you, that's when the party starts. He comes out, hangs around, checks out looking for food.
Tell us about the shedding process Pharaoh goes through.
Well, imagine if you shed your skin like you pull off your sock. You just pull it off in one fluid motion. Pharaoh starts with his head, and then the whole shed comes off. But when he starts, he gets a little opaque color to his scales. And then we'll notice that maybe he wiggles against a rock or a branch, and that's what helps that sock peel right off of Pharaoh.
Would a sand boa make a good pet to have at home?
Well, if you like snakes, they would. Although he is illegal to own in the United States, all reptiles, snakes, turtles, I'm telling you, make the best pets. Gotta love a pet you only have to feed once a week.
Good.